Now, somebody asked me, and it was a very good question. They couldn't understand why we say like zucchini, pumpkins, and then we say squash here in my area. Well, when we say squash, people know that, or people in this area know that we're talking about yellow squash when we say squash. Whether it be straight neck or crooked neck, yellow squash. When we say we're going to fry up some squash. If we're talking about zucchini, we're going to say zucchini. If we're talking about pumpkin, we're going to say pumpkin. Or if we're talking about a different kind of squash, like acorn or something, we always say the name. But if you ever hear me say, I'm going to fry up some squash, or this recipe calls for squash, and I forget to say yellow squash, that's what I mean. And that was a very good question. But anyways, we're just going to make it simple today. But I'm going to show you how I freeze. Now, I'm not going to can anything right now, but I am going to put it in the freezer. In fact, I like the texture of the zucchini and the yellow squash when I freeze it better than when I can it. So, and also, very important, we're going to make some old-fashioned salt pickles like they used to do back in the day. And you're not going to be using vinegar because you're going to be fermenting these pickles. So it's really easy to do. And if you got everything that you need in your garden, like I do, I've got the dill, I've got the garlic, and I've even got some muscadine leaves that I'll be putting in there with it because it's got tannins in it that help keep your cucumbers crisp. Now, if you've got regular grape leaves, that's wonderful too. But muscadine leaves have a lot of tannins in them that work just as well. So anyways, let's get started on our day. Welcome to Whippoorwill Holler. I'm Miss Lori, and this is Mr. Brown. We live in the hills of Arkansas. We love the Lord. Keepers of the old way, but accept some of the new. We love to cook, and we love to eat. We love to garden. It's in our blood. It's how we stay sustainable and fill our pantry. We do a lot of canning and preserving. We live a sustainable life. We love our family. We work hard. And every once in a while, we like to dance. So y'all join us. Let's make some old-fashioned salt pickles like Grandma used to make. I've got about 4 pounds of, these are pickle and cucumbers. And I slice mine up. You can leave them whole if you want to, but we like ours sliced up. Now, we're not big pickle eaters, but we do like the fermented pickles, the homemade fermented salt pickles. We'll eat those off and on, and they're better for your gut too. So I've got some muscadine leaves that I got from the garden that I'll put in there. That's for the tannins. The grape leaves and muscadine leaves have tannins, which keep your cucumbers crisp. I've got some dill. I've got some garlic cloves. I've got my pickle and spices, and I even going to put some of my lemon balm in there. I think that'll be good in there. My pickle and spices have cloves, whole peppercorns, yellow mustard seed, bay leaves. I think that's about it. So we need to get our brine together. And I'm going to be using Cannon salt. But you can use kosher salt or Himalayan salt. Just do not use table salt, which is iodized salt. I usually use Cannon salt whenever I'm brining sauerkraut or pickles. So I've got everything I need here. And I'm going to get my crock. You can do this in a gallon glass jar if you want to. But I've got a gallon crock that I'm going to be doing my pickles in. And here I've got 8 cups of water. And I'm going to put in 4 tablespoons of cannon salt. Now your salt is very important. Of course, we know that salt is a preservative, but fermenting pickles, you're not going to be using or putting in any kind of vinegar. So since you're not using vinegar, what you're doing is you're fermenting, just like you do sauerkraut or anything like that. So in this recipe, you don't have to put in any vinegar because it's going to make its own brine and will pretty much make its own vinegar because it's fermenting. So just keep that stirred up good, and I'll stir it up good again before I pour it in my crock. And I've got a gallon crock here, and I got a top for it. But like I said, you can do this in a gallon jar, or 2 half gallons, or just a big bowl, or whatever you have to do it in. Here's my weights. I'll be using my weights to weigh the pickles down to keep them underneath the brine. Okay, let me go grab my cucumbers again. And we'll get started on our salt pickles. And what we're going to do is we're going to layer. And we're going to start layering with our cucumbers on the bottom. Now, you don't have to be precise on, how thick you put your layer of your sliced cucumbers, or if you're doing it with whole cucumbers. What you're wanting to do is just make sure that you get, everything where it has a chance to get all the spices. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tablespoon of my pickle and spice, and I'm just going to sprinkle that on top of my cucumbers. So that's my second layer. I'm going to take some of my cloves of garlic that I got from the garden. Now, I didn't chop them up or anything. I just kind of cut them up. I took a knife and kind of pressed on them a little bit to get some of the juices out of that garlic. Now I'm going to put some of my dill. I did happen to have some dill in the garden. I always try to keep dill going because I know I'm always going to need it for pickles or something. And I put some of my lemon balm in there. And now I'm going to layer my muscadine leaves. Now I'm going to put another layer of my cucumbers. Now, if y'all don't understand why I'm using the muscadine leaves, if you use either muscadine leaves, I'm going to put another tablespoon of my pickle and spice and some more cloves of garlic and my dill and my lemon balm, and we'll just start our layers again. But the muscadine leaves have tannins in it, just like your regular grape leaves. And back in the day, they would use grape leaves in their pickles because it helps to keep the texture and keep it a crisper cucumber. Now, if you don't have access to any grape leaves or muscadine leaves, you can use Pickle Crisp, which you can buy. It's usually over by your canning supplies, or you can order it online. But you don't have to use very much of it. So if you use Pickle Crisp, make sure you read the directions on how much to put in your brine. My muscadine vine is looking really beautiful. So I'm going to put another layer of my pickle and spice on top of the last layer of cucumbers. I'm going to get some extra cloves and peppercorns, and I'm going to put the last of my garlic. And I can't really give precise, measurements. I'm going to put the last of my dill, because just do it to your taste. How much garlic you want in there, how much dill you want in there, how much pickle and spice you want in there. Of course, I'm adding some lemon balm, but that's not something you have to put in there. So I've got a few of my muscadine leaves, and that's going to be the last layer. This is really simple to do, and the pickles are just so good. Fermented pickles I just love them. And once I get them fermented, I will put them in something different, and I'll keep them in the refrigerator. So we got all of our layers done. Everything's in the crock. So now we're going to pour our brine over everything. And I guess I'll probably get all this in here. I hope I can get all the brine in there. But y'all know Miss Lori, everything I do, every bowl is always lipping full. If you wanted a little spicier pickle, I know some people will even, if you've got some jalapenos in your garden ready to go, you could throw you some jalapenos in here too, because they'll ferment just like the cucumbers. Got some cloves floating on top. I'm going to stick down in there. So I'm going to try to put my weights in here. And I'm going to wipe the rim off just a little bit. I'm hoping that the brine don't overflow and come over the edge there, because it is a full crock. You want to make sure that that brine is completely over your last layer. So there we go. That's it. If I can carry this back to my pantry, I'll be doing good. Miss Avery wants to help me. Put my lid on. Now you want to place your crock or your gallon jar or whatever you've done your salt pickles in, and you want to place them in a dark, cool, dry place. And I'm going to stick these in the extra bedroom that I made into my extra pantry. And I'm just going to cover it up with a dish towel. But that's just how easy this is. Do you remember your grandma or your mama doing this? Salt pickles. My mother-in-law used to make lime pickles. They weren't my favorite. A lot of people liked them, though. So I am carefully going to put this down here. It usually stays pretty dark in here, and I'm going to go ahead and cover it up with my tea towel. And we'll come back and check it probably about 7 days, and I'll do a video checking our pickles. We'll see how they done. Now these zucchinis got a little bit bigger than what I really like, but they're going to work. So I washed them in a little bit of water and a little bit of vinegar and washed them really well. And now I'm just going to cut some of the bad spots off, because I like to leave the skin on. And you're always going to have a few bad spots. Now with this zucchini being this big, usually the seeds are really big. So what I'll do is I'm going to chunk some of them up for sauteing or putting in different dishes. And I'm also going to chunk it up to shred it up for my zucchini bread. And you can see the seeds are pretty big in there, so we're going to get them out of there. I'll find me a spoon. But we're going to shred some up to make zucchini bread and zucchini brownies and different stuff like that. So there's going to be a couple different ways I'm going to freeze them. But when the seeds are this big, we really don't like eating all them seeds. So I'm going to just scoop them out. That's the best thing to do. Now we are going to be blanching what I cube up. I'm not going to blanch my shredded zucchini. There's no reason for it, really. It usually freezes up really good when I shred it up. But my chunked up zucchini and yellow squash, we will blanch for a couple minutes. And that way, it kind of gets rid of the enzymes that causes it to get black, and just blanching it just keep it preserved longer. So I've got my chunked up zucchini here. You can use a shredder or you can use a processor, whichever one, and I'm going to use my little processor. You just want to be careful when you're doing this because you do not want to process it till it's just plumb mush. So what I do is I just use the pulsing setting, and I'll just pulse it till it gets the texture that I like to put up for baking with. And I do have a bigger processor, but I'm just going to use my little one right now. I'm going to check it and see what it looks like. It looks pretty good. I'm going to continue to take off the bad spots. Usually at the end it's kind of woody, and I like to get that off when they're this big. But I'm going to continue to chunk these up, deseed them for freezing. I like to use my chunked up zucchini and yellow squash for different things, for either stir fries or soups, stews, casseroles. I've got a pot with some water in it, and I've got it on a simmer. It don't have to be a hard boil. And we're just going to throw our chunks of zucchini and squash in here, yellow squash. Now you don't want to boil it. You're not cooking it, you're just blanching it. So it's just a simmer, and we're going to let it do this simmer for just about 2 minutes is all it takes. And I've got a pan with ice water in it. So it's been blanching for 2 minutes, and we're going to get them out real quick, and we're going to throw them in this ice water, and that stops the cooking process and just sets them up good for freezing. And I'll continue to do this with the rest of my zucchini and my yellow squash. So once you get it all out, you want to let it cool down, completely cool down that ice water. It may take just a minute or so. Okay, it's cooled down, and now we're going to put it over here on a cookie sheet with a tea towel. I'm just going to layer it out and let it dry. Or just let them dry as much as possible. Zucchini has a lot of liquid in it. When I got up, you was asleep, and I didn't know where she was. So I'll continue this process with the rest of it too. That's why I like to do a little bit at a time. Just makes it a lot easier. So just spread it out and let it cool down and dry just a little bit. Okay, they're dry, and I got them on a cookie sheet, and I'm going to stick them in the freezer overnight. Let them get good and frozen all the way through before I bag them up. Now this is the way we're going to be freezing the shredded zucchini. I was gifted these silicone cupcake molds or muffin molds, and they are perfect for measuring out my zucchini in half cup, what we might call zucchini pucks. So each little round is a half a cup, which is a good measurement because some of my recipes call for half a cup and some call for a cup. So these are just perfect. I was gifted these and they work so good for stuff like this. And I'll try to find some, put them in the link below. I know a lot of y'all have them because y'all were telling me about them. I had never purchased any, and somebody was kind enough to send these to me, so thank you so much. Not sure how many I'm going to get out of this batch. Got 6 here, so I might get probably 9 or 10 out of what I've got shredded up. We'll see. So I'm just going to take the bottom of my measuring cup and I'm just going to kind of press them down. And they'll be perfect little half cup size shredded zucchini. So let's see how many we get. These little silicone molds like this, you don't have to spray them or anything. Everything you put in there just pops right out of them. We never had anything like this growing up or even in my young cooking days. Never had such things. The stuff they come up with anymore. So it looks like I might get 2 more, so that'll be an even 10. I've got a zucchini bread recipe that calls for a cup of zucchini, and then I've got a cookie recipe, and I can't remember my brownie recipe if it calls for half a cup or a whole cup. I can't remember. So this will be perfect. Used to, I would just measure them out by the cup and then put them in a little baggie and flatten it out, and that's how I would freeze it. But I really like this method. So we got it on the cookie sheet because they're so flimsy. So I put it on a cookie sheet. I'm going to stick them in the freezer overnight and let them get good and frozen through and through. Now we're going to start with our yellow squash. Everybody is getting a lot of squash right now. I'm going to cut a lot of this up in slices, and I'll be freezing the slices to fry later. And then I will chunk some up to freeze the other way with the zucchini. So once I get all this sliced up, I'm not going to blanch the squash that I put up to fry. I've never had to, so I'm just not going to. It always works out fine. But I will be dredging it in a flour cornmeal mixture. I'll show you here in just a minute. And I'll show you how I freeze it. And I've done it for so many years. And it always works. I've got so much squash right now in my canned up in my pantry. And so this is the way I'm going to do it this year. And I've got okra that'll be coming off too. And I'll show y'all. I think I've got a video freezing okra, but I think I'll do it again, show y'all how I do that. It always works out good. So we have squash and we have okra all winter. And the way that I freeze it up, and I'm going to chunk some of this up. And the way that I do it, I can just open my bag up and just start frying, because you do not want to thaw it out at all. You're going to fry this squash from the frozen state. You're not going to thaw it out. You know, we all get so excited when the garden's coming off, and when it does, it's like, oh man, look at all this squash and zucchini. This year I planted a red burgundy okra. We're not planting as big a garden this year because we plan on kind of doing a little bit of going and visiting this summer, so we didn't want to put out more than we can take care of for sure. Not, you know. I will have somebody coming and watering if needed, but so I'm going to get everything ready and show you how I do my squash for frying. This one right here is kind of an oddball. And I'm just going to chunk it up because I have a feeling it's going to have big seeds in it. But it's still good. It feels tender. Growing up, my grandma made the best fried squash. She would cut it in big chunks, and she would batter it with the egg batter and deep fry it. And I do have a video of grandma's squash. Just type in the search bar, Whippoorwill Holler, fried squash, grandma's fried squash. Okay, this one right here, I de-seeded. It had a lot of big seeds in it. And this is the one, I'll cut these up in chunks and I'll blanch these with my zucchini. And I'll just stick it in with my zucchini. Danny does like squash casserole, but he does not like the seeds. That's for sure. Okay. Got them all cut up. Now, my ratio of flour to cornmeal is usually about 1.5 cups of just all-purpose flour, or you can use self-rising flour. It don't matter. To a cup, usually 1.5 cups of cornmeal. And it's just regular cornmeal. It's not cornmeal mix. But I can tell you, I have used cornmeal mix, and it works just fine. This is a fine ground cornmeal that I get at the Mennonite store. But you can use whatever you've got, really. I think I need just a little bit more cornmeal, so that's 1.5 cups and 1.5 cups. And I like to put just a little bit of seasoning in here. You can put any kind of seasoning you like. I usually put a little bit of salt. And I'm going to grab me some pepper. You can even put you a little bit of like Cajun seasoning in it, a little bit of garlic, onion powder, anything like that. Be good. Just stir it up good. And I've got a piece of parchment paper on my sheet pan that I'm going to lay these on. So I'm not even putting it in egg or milk or anything. I'm just dredging it in the cornmeal and flour. And I'm just going to put it in a single layer. And this is the way I do my okra too. Because once I get my sheet pan filled up with the squash, I will stick it in the freezer overnight and flash freeze it. And then tomorrow we'll get up and we're going to put everything, package everything up to put in the freezer. And the main reason you do it this way is because if you just throw it all in a bag like this, it's going to stick together. All your flour and your cornmeal mix is going to come off of it. It just don't work good. This is the best way to do it. Because any kind of squash, zucchini, just anything like that has quite a bit of liquid in it. So you just have to be careful of that. So if y'all would like for me to show y'all how I freeze my okra, just let me know in the comments below. One thing I do try to do is try hard to keep my dishes washed up when I'm doing stuff. That way I don't have a sink full of dishes when I get done. I can't always do that. Sometimes I'm so busy I can't get it done, but I try hard. My mother-in-law, when she was cooking, she would always wash her dishes as she went, and she never ever had a sink full of dishes. Her kitchen was always neat when she was cooking. I try. Don't always work out though. Especially when you're doing videos, you're just a messing and a gomming and a going. But I'm gonna try today to keep things washed up. Another thing I do is I keep a scrap bowl to put all my scraps in till I get done, and then I go take the scraps out to the compost or to the chickens, one or the other, because it's always got peelings of vegetables or fruit or something in it, because there's always something going on. And there's my scrap bowl. Okay, so it is the next day, and all that squash and the yellow squash, zucchini that we put up is frozen really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, we'll just call these, since each one was a half a cup, and I know that, so when I take one or two out, I'll know exactly the measurements. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take them out. They should just pop right out of here, just like that. And I'm going to put it in my vacuum sealed bags, just like that. So I'll know that that's half a cup. Some of my recipes for like my zucchini brownies, my zucchini bread, just different things for shredded zucchini, it's usually a half a cup to a cup. If y'all haven't seen my zucchini brownies, I'll put that link down below. That is such a good recipe, especially when you're needing to use up a bunch of zucchini. Now you can put these in individual bags if you want to, but I'm just going to do mine like this, and every time I have to take some out, I'll just vacuum seal it back. That way I know that it's going to stay fresh for quite a while. And this zucchini should stay fresh in a vacuum seal bag anywhere from 9 months to a year, 12 months. Now if you're just putting them in regular Ziploc bags, they're not going to last as long. Now if you blanched your shredded zucchini before you put them in your freezer bag, it will last a little bit longer, because it gets rid of it's those enzymes and stuff that causes it to turn black and all that. So we're going to see if I can get this vacuum sealed. If you haven't invested in a vacuum sealer, there's all kinds of different brands, different prices, and I think this is the second one I've ever had. And it saves you a lot of money on a lot of things that might go to waste in your freezer, that's for sure. And I bought mine especially for garden season years ago, my first one. Pretty loud, but it does a really good job. Now I could have done this in the smaller portions, but then I'd be using up a lot of my freezer bags, and I don't want to do that. So this bag is going to be big enough that I can get into it, take out how many I need, a half a cup or cup, and then I can just seal it back. So you can see how good that they're sealed up, and this will last me a long time. So this has become my favorite way to freeze shredded zucchini for all my different recipes. So now we're back to our frozen, chunked up. Now I save my parchment paper because when I go to freezing more vegetables, I'll reuse this. So I just want to lay them out and let them dry a little bit. But this is my chunked up zucchini, and then underneath it I had just a little bit of squash, yellow squash, that I wanted to freeze to put in with some of this, because I'll use this in like stir fries, or if I'm making say a squash casserole or a stew or something. Now, will the texture be different than canning it? Yes. And this is what I always say. Treat these like you would if you had bought frozen vegetables at the store. Do not thaw them out. Cook them in their frozen state. If you're sauteing them for stir fries, or if you're putting them in a stew, or if you're going to make a casserole out of them, of course, just put them in your pan frozen and cook them up. So don't thaw them out, because you're going to get nothing but mush, because, you know, any kind of squash, zucchini, they hold so much water, liquid. So you can hear, they're just like little ice cubes. They're frozen solid. And I usually always leave mine overnight to make sure that they're frozen through and through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put enough in here, because I do love putting my garden fresh squash and zucchini in with rice and stuff when I'm making a stir fry. It's just, I really like that combination, along with other vegetables too. But this right here will be enough for me and Mr. Brown for a stir fry. So what I'm going to do is just vacuum seal it. And like I said, the key is not to thaw it out before you use it. This is a Fresco vacuum sealer. I got it off Amazon. I went to all the reviews. I always look at the reviews. And of course, you can't always, trust reviews. But anyways, it's been a good one. It's not a name brand, but it's a good one. So you see how good and sealed that will be. And I'll just, with each bag, I'll just stack them up, and I'll have these, all winter, because I'm going to have a lot of zucchini and squash, yellow squash coming off, plus different kinds of squashes like pumpkins and butternut and acorn. I believe there's some out there that's coming up. So besides shredding my zucchini, this is a really good way if you use zucchini chunked up in different recipes. But just always use them in their frozen state. Don't thaw them out before. Okay, our next one is how I freeze my yellow squash for frying. You can either fry this in a shallow pan, or you can deep fry these. But do it while they're frozen. Do not thaw these out before you try to fry them, because it won't work, y'all. But what I do is I just put enough in a bag that I know that me and Mr. Brown will eat. And I probably eat more of them than he does. But if we have company and I want to fry some yellow squash for them, I just take out 2 bags. But I always just put enough in each bag for me and him to have a good taste of some fried squash. Fried squash with a ripe tomato out of the garden is so good. Oops. Well, I didn't hold that up, so it's not exactly flat. It's going to be kind of curled up, but that's okay. So I'm going to do probably 2 more, just like this one. So there is, like I said, it should have been flatter than that, but there is your ready to fry fresh squash out of the garden. You didn't heat it up, so any nutrients that you got in any kind of yellow squash, zucchini, or whatever is still in there. Flash froze it in the freezer for many hours after breading it, and then vacuum sealed it. So this should be good. It should be good for at least up to 9 months in your freezer, if it lasts that long. But yeah, I wish that would have done flatter than that. But anyways, I'm going to do 2 more bags, and then I'm going to put them in the freezer. It's about that easy. Show y'all is there's a lot of people that they do not feel comfortable with canning. Water bath canning, some people haven't even done that. They're just afraid they're going to mess up and not do it right and cause issues. And I understand that very well. I think the pressure canning is a lot of people are intimidated by it. And there's also a lot of y'all that there's certain things you don't like to can because you just don't like the end product, and that's me too. I'm the same way. So when it comes to, now y'all have seen me can squash to fry, and I learned that from old Alabama gardener, and it does work. But I still have several jars of that yellow squash left over on my shelf. So I said this time I'm going to get it ready, breaded like I done in the old days, and just, now back then I didn't have a vacuum sealer. No. It was many years, in fact probably after I started my YouTube channel that I even bought one. Everything was froze in either leftover bread bags or cheap knockoff freezer bags. That's what I've always used. So it always worked. Nothing stayed good, you know, for 9 months to 12 months, a lot of my vegetables and stuff, but it lasted me long enough to get it ate up. And you just always done what you had to do, and that was just one of the things I had to do. But as time went on, I could purchase a vacuum sealed sealer, and like I said, this is my second one. But what you need to do, if you haven't got one or you need to buy a new one, just do your research on them, because some of them, I had one I bought at Walmart, and I'm not going to say the brand name, but it didn't last me very long. I don't know what the deal was, so I ended up getting rid of it and then finding this one on Amazon. And I'll put the link below. You may not be interested in this brand, and that's okay, but if you want to just look at it, that's fine. I'll put it down there. So I'm glad y'all come along with me. Maybe you learned something new about how you can put up your shredded zucchini and your zucchini and squash for putting in stir fries and different recipes. So probably this summer, this will be the way that I put most of my squash up instead of canning it. I don't have, usually I'm saying I don't have enough freezer space. But this time I'm saying I don't. I mean, I have enough jars and stuff, but I don't need to can anything like this when I know I can freeze it and it turns out really good because I've done it for so many years. Because in my pantry right now, I'm going to end up probably canning green beans and some more dry beans and probably some more meat and broth. So I need the room in my pantry shelves for that. So anyways, thank y'all for being with me. And it has rained and rained and rained since late last night. I don't know how many inches we've got right now, but I'm going to say, what do you think, Danny? About 3 inches? Probably by now. So it's been much needed rain, that's for sure. But I know a lot of y'all been getting too much rain. I hope the sun shines on y'all for a while. But thank y'all for coming along. Y'all have a wonderful week. And we'll be back with you in a couple of days. Don't know what we will be doing, but we'll be doing something. We love y'all. If you got any comments about what I done or you need to know something, just comment. I try so hard to get to as many comments, and Danny helps me too. But y'all have blessed us with, y'all absolutely engage with us so much that there's thousands of comments, and it's very hard to get to all of them. So if we don't get to your comment, please don't think that we're not going through there, at least giving a heart, showing y'all how much we love you. But you just can't get through all of them. But keep commenting, keep them comments coming, because that helps our channel so much. Give us a thumbs up, share it, keep that algorithm really going. And I mean, there's so many things we want to share with y'all, so we want to keep going with y'all and keep y'all dear to us, to our hearts. So if you need to email me and I haven't got back to you, just give me a few days because trying to get it all done, it's still you got to get in there, you got to have time, and to get it. I get a lot of emails too. But you email me if you need to know something, and I try hard to help you if I can. I don't always have the answers, but I try as best I can. But all y'all that have sent me gifts, I want to thank you so much. Cards and letters and just some of the most thoughtful comments. And if you need prayers, we're always praying for y'all, always. And it's just, we wish we could get back with every one of y'all. That's thousands of people that we love so much. And there's just the two of us, and we try hard. So just know that we do get in there, and we do the best we can with the time we have. But y'all take care, and if y'all need prayers or just need to talk, just know me and Mr. Brown are always here. So we'll see y'all in a couple of days. I hope y'all's garden's doing good. God bless everybody.